The second in her
Hey BookTube, welcome back to Barter Hordes. My name is Robert, and I'm here today with a Friday Reads catch-up video. Before I talk about what I've been reading, just a quick update for those of you following along with the BookTube Prize. We are 10 days away from the end of the first round, the octo-finals, where we have 48 books. The judges have till the 25th to turn in their rankings for the 6 books that they read. And then on the 26th, in the morning, in the Eastern time zone, in the United States anyway, I'll post a video explaining which 24 books will advance into the quarterfinals and how they'll be grouped into the 4 groups. There'll be 6 books in each group, of course. So if you're following along, mark it on your calendar. The 26th will be when we announce the quarterfinals. And then I'll be sending out the quarterfinal judges their reading assignments that same day, and they can get started a couple of days early. The quarterfinals will run through April and until the 25th of May. So they have just about 2 months to read the 6 books. Okay, so I only finished 1 book this week because I've been reading some really long books, but that's okay. I've been reading. I've been a little bit distracted by some of the March Madness, the basketball tournaments. My Texas Tech Red Raiders got knocked out embarrassingly last night to the last ranked team in the entire Big 12 conference, but they're still going to make the big dance. So they've got something to look forward to, and they've got a week or 2 to get their act together before they have to face anybody in the NCAA tournament. Kentucky plays their Southeastern Conference match tonight against Alabama. I believe it's a quarterfinal matchup. So those are the 2 teams that I've been following. Okay, so the 1 book that I finished this week was a relatively short book. It is one of the long list for the BookTube Prize, and it is Carys Davies's short novel, West. It is a debut novel, although it's not her fiction. It's not her debut fiction. She has published, I think, 2 collections of short stories, but this is her first novel. I mentioned it's brief. It's 150 pages. The font is pretty generous. You can read it. I think the audiobook, even on normal speed, is only about 3.5 hours. So it's a pretty brief book, but I absolutely thought it was terrific. I don't know what it is about Westerns recently, but between that and Lonesome Dove, which I'll talk about in a minute, last year, was it Pauline or Paulette Giles? I forget. Her book that was a short Western that was so popular, I adored as well. I'll put a picture of it up here so you can see which book I'm talking about because I can't remember the title. But West is really kind of an amazing story. Davies is a British writer. I'm not sure if she's Welsh. Her name is spelled like we would say in the United States, Davies, but I know in the UK they pronounce it Davis. And that, I think, is a Welsh name, but she lives in the Northeast in England now, so she's an English resident. But she's writing about the American 19th century. The story's set in 1815. It starts off in Pennsylvania. Cy Bellman is a widower. He raises mules. He has a daughter who I think is 10, named Bess. And he has read an article in the paper about the discovery in Kentucky of these massive ancient bones. We, of course, in 2019 know that he's talking about dinosaur bones, but he didn't know what they were back then. And he becomes inflamed with this idea that these large ancient animals are still alive and they're out west in the areas that adventurers and discoverers like Lewis and Clark just didn't find. And so he's convinced that he's going to go out west and find these animals. And so he basically turns over the care of his daughter to his sister, who's not happy about this. She thinks he's being a fool. Bess is concerned, but she also supports and loves her father. He has kind of a shady hand that helps him with the mules that he's given more responsibility to, which causes problems after he leaves. And I don't want to say too much more about the story, but he goes away and goes in pursuit of these animals. And along the way, he picks up a Native American guide, a young boy who doesn't speak any English, and Cy Bellman doesn't speak the native language, and so they communicate mostly through gestures and just after being together for a while through intuition of what each other is talking about or needs. But it was a fascinating story. It's about passion and adventure and faith in discovery and all these things. And I really, really enjoyed it. So if you're looking for a quick read, but one that is really, I don't know how to describe it other than that I found it really touching. Try Carys Davies's West. It's gotten stellar reviews from most of the videos I've watched about it. And I would add my voice to that praise. I really think it's a good novel. Okay, so what am I reading in addition to that? If you've seen any of my recent Friday Reads videos, you know that I'm reading Larry McMurtry's Lonesome Dove as my attempt in the March of the Mammoths. March of the Mammoths is a read-along challenge that was put together by Jason of Old Blues Chapter and Verse, and Lukash of Totally Pretentious, and Alex of Big Al Books, where you are challenged to tackle an 800-plus page novel in the month of March. And Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry is about 850 something, 840 pages, something along those lines. And I am 700 pages in, so I'm going to finish it Sunday probably. I've been reading about 50 pages a day. And so that means I'll finish it this weekend. And I'm absolutely loving it. I have read McMurtry before. I've enjoyed McMurtry because I lived in Texas for 13 years. And he just, even in these historical ones, this one's set in the 19th century as well, he captures the flavor of the Texas culture, the Texas speech patterns. It's just a delight to read. And I'll talk more about it next week after I finish it, but this will probably, undoubtedly, will be my first 5-star read of the year. I've also been reading the first volume, and I don't read very much fantasy at all, ever. I'm reading the first volume in a trilogy by Bernard Cornwell about King Arthur. It's called The Warlord Chronicles. I couldn't remember the title of the series. The volume that I'm reading, the first volume, is called The Winter King. And it's set right after King Uther dies, and Mordred is born as a club-footed prince, but they have saved him and protected him because he's supposed to be the next king. And Arthur, who is his uncle, eventually comes to basically serve as a regent. He's going to run the country until Mordred is of age to take over. But I really struggled with the beginning of this book. The first 100 pages or so, Arthur's not even involved yet. It's all these other characters that I've never even heard of before who are talking about the story. It's told from the point of view of a man who is now a monk, but who was once one of Arthur's chosen guard. And a lot of it is told from his point of view over different times. Once Arthur arrived and the story seems to have kicked off, I've enjoyed it much more. I think I'm about 250 pages into it, and I probably have another 150 or 175 pages to go. I did just order the second and the third volume because I liked it enough to probably continue the series. I got them in paperback though. I had to get them from England. The editions available in the United States weren't very appealing. And my library only had the first one, The Winter King, which is what I'm reading now, checked out from the library. And so I'll be getting all of those in paperback. And if I continue with the series and like it, I'll keep them. If not, I'll donate them or put them into a used bookstore or something. But this is my foray into fantasy, first one in a long time. And the third book, which I'm starting this afternoon, is another BookTubePrize long-listed title, Fire Sermon by Jamie Quatro. And I know very little about this one. The description on Goodreads says it's about obsession, lust, and salvation. I know there's a religious component to this, but beyond that, I know nothing about the story, although it's been praised highly on both BookTube and on Goodreads, so I'm anxious to see how I get on with that. I am slowly making my way through all of the 48 titles on the long list. I think I've read 26 or 27 of them now. I won't obviously get them all read before the end of the octafinals, and then I'll probably shift my attention to the ones that I haven't read that are still in the competition, but eventually I'll read all 48. All right, so that's what I've been reading. I didn't finish a lot this week, but I have been reading a lot, just in quite lengthy books. So I'll be finishing both Lonesome Dove and The Winter King this week, and Fire Sermon won't take me a full week. So I should have 3 to wrap up for you next week. I hope you've had a great week. I apologize if you've heard any construction noise in the background. They are building constantly in this development, and now they're getting ready to do the final paving on a couple of the roads nearby, not the one that I'm on. They've already finished that, but they're doing a lot of drilling of the concrete patches that have been damaged by the construction trucks and replacing those. So there's jackhammers going off constantly, which makes for a rather noisy day. But other than that, things are okay here in North Carolina. I hope you're having a great week, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye-bye, everybody.